All right, the diagrams are getting a bit more complicated here. So we've been given that angles 2 and 4 are congruent. In addition to knowing what angles we want to mark here, what angles we want to focus on, it's helpful to determine what is the transversal. So the transversal is going to be the line that both of those angles touch. In this case, A is our transversal. Identifying the transversal will help you find the parallel lines in a more complicated diagram. Remember, a transversal is a line that cuts through two or more other lines. So in this picture, what does A cut through? Both C and D. So having 2 and 4 as my congruent angles tells us that C and D are our parallel lines. Remember that notation there, the 2 slashes for parallel. The reason I can say that those lines are parallel is because 2 and 4 are corresponding angles. I'm using a converse here, the corresponding angles converse. Let's look at another one, angles 5 and 10. That's angle 5 and that's angle 10. So now notice my transversal changes. The line that both of those touch is line C. Now line C is the transversal I care about. Line C cuts through both A and B. So I can say something about A and B. I know that they're parallel. The reason they are parallel is because I have alternate interior angles that are congruent. That's my converse there. Jumping down to a supplementary example, angle 1 and angle 13. There's my 1, there's my 13. Again, we have line C as our transversal. So when line C is our transversal, we can say something about A and B, and it's that they're parallel. So we get parallel lines now because of the consecutive exterior angles converse. Again, consecutive exterior angles were supplementary. That's this statement here. So we were able to say, hey, parallel lines. Jumping down to 1 and 14, keep my 1 where it's at. Now we have that they're congruent. It is the same transversal that we've been looking at. So A and B are the lines we care about here. With 1 and 14 being congruent, that is our alternate exterior angles converse. Opposite sides of that transversal, outside the parallel lines. Next one, we're looking at 14 and 15. Changing up our transversal here. Now our transversal is B. The transversal is B, so looking at this diagram, what does B cut through? Line C and D. So we're able to say line C and D are parallel because 14 and 15 are consecutive interior angles that are supplementary. What about 11 and 16? Being told that those are congruent. Unfortunately, those are vertical angles, and there is no vertical angles converse. So we can't say anything about parallel lines, for example, F there. Unfortunately, there's just nothing going on here. Let's look at a happier case. 4 and 15. Now D is my transversal, which is good. D hasn't had a chance to be our transversal yet. However, just like line C, line D cuts through both A and B. So the only thing we'd be able to say is for lines A and B, we can say that they are parallel. Pardon, I had the wrong one highlighted. There we go. No, I'm being silly. A and B there, I jumped ahead one, that's what happened. A and B there are our parallel lines for example G, angles 4 and 15. I can say that because they are alternate exterior angles. And of course, I just gave away 10 and 12. 10 and 12 are those two there. They are corresponding angles. Corresponding angles. Awkward how that one's got an extra space in it. Next one we're looking at is 9 and 13. 9 and 13. Note they do share a transversal and all that good stuff, but 9 and 13 are a linear pair. Unfortunately, there is no linear pair converse, so we can't say anything about parallel lines given 9 and 13. 2 and 7, on the other hand, we do share a transversal there. 2 and 7 are alternate interior angles. They are on opposite sides of the transversal between our two lines, C and D. So because C and D there are two lines getting cut by the transversal, we can say they're parallel. And they are parallel because of the alternate interior angles converse. Ending this one on a sad note, note that 6 and 11, they don't share any line at all. There's no transversal that both of those angles are on. So we can't say anything about any lines at all that are parallel. Sorry, just nothing we can do here.